Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive. We
Yeah.
love to pick these topics that are just endlessly fascinating. And today we're diving into one that I think has captivated the world for quite a while now, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
Yeah, it's one of those stories you almost can't believe happened.
Right.
A sophisticated aircraft of Boeing 777 just vanishes.
Yeah, in this day and age, too.
It's like something out of, another era, not the 21st century.
Yeah, well, let's rewind the clock back to March 8th, 2014. MH370 takes off from Kuala Lumpur. It's headed to Beijing. Everything seems normal, routine flight cruising at 35,000 feet. And then around 1:08 a.m., things start to get a little strange as MH370 crosses over the Malaysian coastline and heads out over the South China Sea.
The last communication anyone has with the cockpit is from Captain Zahari. He's confirming their altitude to Kuala Lumpur Air Traffic Control. And what's interesting is it seems a little unnecessary, like a redundant report, because they were still in radar-covered airspace.
Right.
So then, as MH370 is approaching Vietnamese airspace, the controller in Kuala Lumpur instructs them to contact Ho Chi Minh Air Traffic Control, and Captain Zahari acknowledges with a simple "good night," and that's it, silence.
So what should have been, a routine handover between air traffic control centers turns into this chilling silence. What happens next?
Well, it gets even more perplexing because there's this series of missteps that follow. So the Vietnamese controllers, they see MX370 disappear from their radar and they just assume it's a communication glitch.
Right.
So they wait to contact Kuala Lumpur. Precious time is slipping away. And meanwhile, on the Malaysian side, the controller who last spoke to MH370, he doesn't even realize that the plane has vanished from his radar screen for several minutes.
Oh, wow.
By the time the alarm bells really start going off, MH370 has vanished.
It's hard to believe in our hyper-connected world, it's all of the tracking technology we have, that a massive jet could just disappear. Like it's not some, small plane dropping off radar. We're talking about a Boeing 770.
And this initial confusion, this delayed response, it really sets this frustrating and frankly concerning tone for the entire investigation.
Yeah.
It's like they missed that crucial first step, and it led to this ripple effect of challenges down the line.
So initially, the search focused on the South China Sea, right? The
Yeah.
assumption being that, maybe there was a crash, maybe there was a hijacking in that area.
Yeah, that was the logical starting point.
Right.
But then enters this critical piece of the puzzle, the data from an Inmarsat satellite. And this data wasn't even really intended to track aircraft. These were just routine automated handshakes.
Like pings.
Just pings between the satellite and the plane's communication systems.
Okay, so we have these pings, these handshakes.
Yeah.
What can we actually learn from them?
Well, it turns out quite a lot within those faint signals. Experts were able to extract two key pieces of information, the distance value and the Doppler value.
Okay.
Think of the distance value as a series of expanding circles around the satellite.
Okay.
Each ping tells us how far the plane was from the satellite at that moment.
Oh, I see.
And that helps narrow down the search area.
So we're drawing these arcs on a map showing where the plane could have been.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you determine the direction, the actual path it took?
That's where the Doppler value comes in.
Right.
It measures these subtle changes in the frequency of the signal, kind of like how the pitch of a siren changes as an ambulance approaches and then moves away from you.
Yeah.
By analyzing these tiny shifts, experts could tell that MH370 had turned south away from its intended route to Beijing.
So this data was a game changer. It revealed that MH370 was heading towards this vast emptiness of the southern Indian Ocean.
Exactly. And it also highlighted the plane's continued movement for hours after going silent. We're not talking about, a sudden crash shortly after the last communication. This was a deliberate course change, a sustained flight, all while communication systems were intentionally disabled.
Wow. So at this point, investigators have this very unsettling picture. Emerging a plane flying off course. Communication systems are off, heading into one of the most remote and unforgiving regions on the planet.
Mm-hmm. And all of this based on some very clever analysis of what was essentially, routine satellite data.
It's amazing.
It's both fascinating and incredibly disturbing. No physical evidence, no wreckage, no distress signals, just this electronic trail leading into a vast unknown.
And that's where the human element of this story really comes into play, because with the official investigation facing these immense challenges, individuals like Blaine Gibson, who is a self-described explorer and truth seeker, he decides to take matters into his own hands.
What's remarkable about Gibson is he wasn't an investigator or a pilot or even someone with any deep ties to aviation. He was just driven by this profound need to understand what happened to MH370, to find answers where others were struggling.
I understand that he became deeply invested in the search for debris. What led him to that specific focus?
Gibson attended the first anniversary commemoration for MH370 in Kuala Lumpur, and that's where he met Grace Nathan, whose mother was on the flight.
Oh.
Meeting Grace and hearing her story firsthand deeply moved him. It fueled this desire to get involved in a tangible way, and he decided to focus his efforts on searching for debris along coastlines.
That seems like an incredibly daunting task.
Yeah.
The Indian Ocean is vast currents can carry debris for thousands of miles.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to narrow down a search area?
It was a long shot for sure, but Gibson was undeterred. He meticulously researched ocean currents, consulted with experts, and he began traveling to coastal regions that seemed most likely to have debris wash ashore. He spent countless hours walking beaches, talking to locals, combing through anything that might be connected to the missing plane.
And then in July 2015, a piece of debris washes up on the shore of Reunion Island. Not just any debris, a flaperone from the plane's wing.
The discovery of the flaperone was a pivotal moment. It provided that first tangible proof that the Inmarsat data was accurate, confirming that MH370 had indeed ended up in the Indian Ocean.
So a year and a half after it vanished, we finally have physical evidence corroborating the satellite data.
Yeah.
It must have been a mixture of relief and immense sadness for those involved.
It dashed any lingering hopes that survivors might be found, but it also spurred the investigation forward, particularly for Blaine Gibson. He saw it as confirmation that he was on the right track, that his efforts, however unconventional, could make a difference.
And those efforts were about to get even more remarkable, armed with advice from oceanographers and driven by his unwavering determination. Gibson centered his sights on Mozambique and Madagascar.
He believed that those coastlines, based on current patterns and prevailing winds, were prime locations for debris to wash up, and he was right. In February 2016, on a sandbank off the coast of Mozambique, he finds a triangular piece of debris with the words "no step" stenciled on it.
Wait, he just spotted that while walking along a beach? It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
It was a remarkable find, and Gibson had a gut feeling it was from MH370. He took pictures, documented the location, and contacted authorities, and the piece was later confirmed to be part of the missing aircraft.
Wow. So we've gone from electronic breadcrumbs in satellite data to a man walking along a beach and finding a piece of a missing plane. It's almost hard to believe this is where we start to see what would be called the Gibson effect, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Over the next few years, Gibson's dedication and meticulous searching led him to discover roughly a third of all the confirmed MH370 debris. He traveled extensively across the Indian Ocean, from beaches in South Africa to the shores of Tanzania, following the currents, always looking for those pieces of the puzzle.
While Gibson was conducting his independent search, there were, of course, several official investigations underway, right? Could you give us a quick overview of those?
Absolutely. There were three main efforts: the Australian underwater search, the Malaysian police investigation, and the international accident inquiry. Each had its own focus and limitations, but they all aimed to shed light on what happened to MH370.
So we have this massive underwater search effort happening. A police investigation focused on the passengers and crew, and then an international inquiry trying to put all the pieces together. But it seems none of them were able to definitively answer the core question: what caused MH370 to disappear?
That's the frustrating reality of this case. The Australian search, despite its advanced technology and dedicated teams, found no trace of the main wreckage. The Malaysian police investigation was plagued by a lack of transparency and conflicting information, leaving many questions unanswered, especially surrounding Captain Zahari.
And the international accident inquiry.
It essentially became a bureaucratic labyrinth, bogged down by conflicting interests and an unwillingness to delve too deeply into sensitive areas. It provided some valuable insights, but ultimately failed to offer a conclusive explanation for the disappearance.
So you have these official investigations, each with its own limitations, all happening, while Blaine Gibson is out there, boots on the ground, making significant discoveries. It's a fascinating contrast.
It really highlights the different approaches to this mystery. You have the large-scale, resource-intensive official investigations, and then you have the individual driven by personal conviction and a willingness to go places, literally, that others weren't.
It's a stark reminder that sometimes a fresh perspective and a bit of old-fashioned detective work can yield surprising results.
And that's where things start to get even more interesting, because in the absence of clear answers, the void begins to be filled with speculation, conspiracy theories, and frankly, a whole lot of noise.
Ah, yes, the conspiracy theories, they seem to be an inevitable part of any high-profile mystery. So what were some of the theories floating around about MH370?
Oh, there are plenty. ranging from the plausible to the truly outlandish, everything from a deliberate hijacking and diversion to a secret location, to a sudden mechanical failure leading to a crash in a remote, uncharted part of the ocean, to even more far-fetched ideas about government cover-ups and secret landings in remote areas.
I imagine the internet played a significant role in amplifying these theories.
Absolutely. The online world became a breeding ground for speculation, with forums and social media groups dedicated to dissecting every detail, analyzing satellite images, and putting forth their own interpretations of events.
It's interesting how the human mind just craves an explanation, a story to make sense of the inexplicable.
It's that need for closure, for a narrative that fits, that fuels the spread of these theories, even when they lack solid evidence. And in a case like MH370, where there are so many unknowns, that need becomes even stronger.
So we have this complex interplay of official investigations, a dedicated individual making tangible discoveries, and this whirlwind of speculation and online theorizing. It's no wonder this case continues to captivate the world.
It's a mystery that defies easy categorization, and as we delve deeper into the specifics of the investigations, the theories, and the human stories behind them, you'll see why MH370 remains this puzzle that continues to challenge our assumptions about technology, about the vastness of our planet, and perhaps even about ourselves. It's a puzzle with so many pieces, and some of those pieces lead us right to the man at the helm that night, Captain Zahory Ahmad Shah.
Right. The Malaysian police investigation really focused on Captain Zahiri's background, didn't they? And
Yeah.
I remember there was quite a bit of controversy about how much information they were or weren't sharing. What did they ultimately reveal?
Well, what we know for sure is that Zaharia was a highly experienced pilot, over 18,000 flight hours. He had a solid reputation within Malaysia Airlines, known for his calm demeanor and expertise.
So on the surface, a seasoned, respected pilot.
Yeah.
But I seem to recall there were some things about his personal life that raised eyebrows.
Right. There were a few things that caught the attention of investigators. Zahari was an active member of an opposition political party and a vocal supporter of Anwar Ibrahim, who was facing politically motivated charges at the time.
Okay, so political affiliations enter the picture. Anything else that raised questions?
Well, the investigators discovered that Zahari had a home flight simulator, and the data recovered from that simulator showed he had practiced simulated flights across the Indian Ocean, including some routes that eerily mirrored MH370's final path.
Wow, that's a bit unsettling. So we have these simulated flights, the political affiliations, and the deliberate actions taken in the cockpit to disable communication and deviate from the flight path. It's tempting to draw a connection, but was there any concrete evidence linking Zahari's actions to the disappearance?
That's the crucial point here. Despite all those intriguing details, investigators were never able to definitively prove that Zahari intentionally crashed the plane or that his political views played any role in the events of that night.
It seems like a classic case of correlation does not equal causation. Just because there might be some potential connections doesn't mean there's a direct causal link.
Exactly. And to be fair to Captain Zahari, his family and friends have consistently maintained that he was a dedicated professional and a loving father. They firmly believe he would never intentionally harm anyone.
But it's hard to ignore the fact that those simulated flights and the actions in the cockpit remain unexplained.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's so frustrating about this case for so many people. There are these tantalizing pieces of information, these potential clues, but nothing that definitively solves the puzzle.
And it certainly doesn't help that the Malaysian government wasn't exactly forthcoming with information, especially when it came to Zahiri's background and the simulator data.
Their lack of transparency, whether intentional or not, only fueled speculation and distrust, creating fertile ground for conspiracy theories to flourish.
It's almost as if the lack of clear answers created a vacuum that was quickly filled by speculation and alternative narratives.
It's a natural human response when we're confronted with a mystery, especially one with such high stakes and emotional weight. We seek explanations, even if those explanations venture into the realm of the improbable.
So what were some of the more, let's say, creative theories that emerged about MH370?
Oh, the theories ran the gamut. Some suggested the plane was deliberately flown to a secret location, perhaps hijacked by terrorists or even a rogue state. Others proposed that it suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure, maybe an explosion or a fire, and crashed in a remote, uncharted part of the ocean.
I even remember reading about theories involving remote control of the aircraft, suggesting it was landed somewhere secretly.
Right, and then you had theories involving more fantastical elements, like the plane slipping into a time warp or being abducted by aliens. It seemed like every possible explanation, no matter how far-fetched, was being explored.
It's almost as if the very absence of a definitive explanation fueled the imagination, leading to a free-for-all speculation.
That's the power and the danger of a mystery without an ending. It invites us to fill in the blanks to create our own narratives, even if those narratives are based more on speculation than evidence.
And the internet, with its ability to connect people and amplify information, both accurate and inaccurate, became the perfect breeding ground for those theories to take root and spread.
Exactly. Social media platforms and online forums became echo chambers where people could find others who shared their beliefs no matter how outlandish and reinforce those beliefs through constant discussion and sharing of information, regardless of its validity.
It's important to remember, though, that while these theories can be fascinating to explore, they often lack the rigorous scrutiny and evidence-based analysis that the official investigations were, at least in theory, supposed to uphold.
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in the intrigue of these alternative narratives, but it's crucial to maintain a healthy skepticism and to remember that they are not subject to the same standards of verification and validation as official investigations, flawed as those investigations might have been.
It's also important to consider the impact of all this on the families of those on board MH370. They were dealing with an unimaginable loss, compounded by the mystery and the constant barrage of speculation.
It's hard to even fathom what they went through. You have the sudden, unexplained loss of loved ones, followed by years of uncertainty, conflicting information, and dashed hopes they were caught in this agonizing limbo, unable to find closure. Their grief intertwined with frustration and anger at the lack of answers.
And they were from 14 different countries. Right, it must have been incredibly difficult for them to navigate the cultural differences and the complexities of the various investigations.
They were united in their grief, but also in their frustration with the handling of the investigation and the lack of transparency from the Malaysian government. There were protests, demands for more information, a desperate search for answers that seemed perpetually out of reach.
It's a stark reminder of the human cost of this tragedy, a cost that goes beyond the loss of life and extends to the profound emotional toll on those left behind, left grappling with a mystery that refuses to be solved.
And that toll is exacerbated by the very nature of the disappearance. Unlike a crash with a known location and wreckage where families can at least visit a site and mourn the mystery surrounding MH370, left this gaping wound of unanswered questions, a void that couldn't be filled with traditional rituals of grieving and remembrance.
It's a wound that may never fully heal, even with the debris found by Blaine Gibson and the insights gleaned from the satellite data. There's still no definitive explanation for what happened in those final hours of the flight.
That's perhaps the most haunting aspect of the MH370 saga, this lack of closure. It forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge, the uncomfortable reality that even in our technologically advanced world, some mysteries may remain forever unsolved.
And yet, despite those limits, despite the frustrations and the heartache, there were those who refused to give up hope, who continued to search for answers, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, people like Blaine Gibson.
His dedication is truly remarkable. He faced online abuse, death threats, accusations of being a fraud, a government agent, you name it. Yet he never wavered in his quest to find those fragments of MH370, those pieces of the puzzle that he believed could help bring some measure of understanding to this baffling event.
It's inspiring, really. He essentially became a one-man search party traveling to remote corners of the world, driven by a deep sense of purpose and a belief that even small pieces of debris could help make a difference.
What's striking about Gibson's approach is that he never embraced any particular theory or jumped to conclusions. He wasn't trying to prove a specific narrative or push an agenda. He was simply driven by a desire to find the truth, whatever that truth might be.
He seemed to embody the true spirit of scientific inquiry. Even without any formal scientific background, he understood the importance of evidence, of careful observation, of not letting speculation cloud his judgment.
And in doing so, he not only contributed valuable evidence to the investigation, but also became a symbol of hope and perseverance for the families of those lost. He gave a voice to the voiceless, reminding the world that these weren't just statistics data points on a radar screen. These were real people with lives, families, hopes, and dreams.
His actions serve as a powerful reminder that even in the face of seemingly impossible odds, individual determination can make a difference. That one person's unwavering pursuit of truth can shed light in even the darkest of corners.
And they highlight the essential role of citizen scientists, of independent investigators in pushing the boundaries of knowledge and holding official institutions accountable.
So we've explored the investigations, or lack thereof, in some cases the theories, the impact on the families, and the incredible efforts of individuals like Blaine Gibson. It's a story with so many layers, so much complexity. Where do we go from here? What are some of the key takeaways from this deep dive into MH370?
It's mind-boggling to me that with all of our technology, satellites, radar, deep-sea sonar, We still haven't been able to locate the main wreckage of MH370. It really is, it's a humbling reminder of just how vast and how powerful the ocean is. I mean, think about it. We've mapped the surface of Mars in greater detail than we have the ocean floor.
It's almost like this mystery exposes these limits to our knowledge, pushing us to confront this reality that there are still places on our own planet that are largely unexplored, largely unknown.
And that's part of what makes this case so compelling, so unsettling. We live in this world that seems increasingly defined by data, by instant communication. We can access information at our fingertips, and yet here we have this event that defies easy explanation, a situation where the cause is still completely shrouded in mystery.
It's like we have a few pieces of this giant jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
The edges, some intriguing fragments, but that central image, that key to understanding the whole picture, it's still elusive.
And it's that missing image that continues to haunt us. It challenges our assumptions about safety, about our ability to control the world around us, and about the very nature of truth itself.
We're so used to instant answers, definitive explanation. We expect to be able to Google anything and get a clear, concise result. But MH370 doesn't play by those rules. It forces us to sit with uncertainty, to grapple with ambiguity.
It's a test of patience, of critical thinking, of a willingness to accept that sometimes, despite our best efforts, some questions may simply remain unanswered.
Yeah, that's a difficult concept to accept, especially in a world that, prioritizes quick solutions and easy explanations.
But that doesn't mean we stop searching. We stop questioning, the quest for answers, even if those answers remain elusive, has value in itself. It's what drives us forward, fuels our curiosity, pushes us to explore the unknown.
It's about the journey as much as the destination,
Yeah.
right? The process of inquiry, of testing theories, of considering different perspectives. I think that's where the real learning happens.
Exactly. And even if we never find that definitive answer to the MH370 mystery, the journey itself has already yielded some important insights. It's taught us about the limitations of technology, the complexities of human nature, and the importance of perseverance in the face of adversity.
And it's sparked countless conversations, scientific inquiries, artistic explorations. This mystery has become woven into our collective consciousness. It's a reminder that even in a world that feels increasingly mapped and measured, there are still stories out there that defy easy explanation, that challenge us to confront the vast unknown.
So as we reach the end of our deep dive, I'm curious, what stands out to you? What will you take away from this exploration of MH370? What resonated with you the most?
Well, for me, it's the resilience of the human spirit that shines through. Whether it's the families who never gave up hope, the investigators who tirelessly pursued every lead, or individuals like Blaine Gibson who took it upon themselves to search for answers. There's this profound sense of determination, this refusal to be defeated by the unknown.
I completely agree. And I'm also struck by the enduring power of mystery. MH370 continues to captivate our imaginations precisely because it refuses to fit neatly into a box. It challenges our assumptions and forces us to confront the limits of our understanding.
And maybe that's the ultimate takeaway, to embrace the unknown, to remain curious, to acknowledge that even in a world that seems increasingly explained, there are still mysteries out there waiting to be explored.
Well said. And who knows, maybe someday some new piece of information will surface, a breakthrough will occur, and the mystery of MH370 will finally be solved. But until then, it serves as a reminder of the limits of our understanding and the enduring power of the unexplained.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. Could there be a simple explanation that we've all overlooked, or does the truth lie buried beneath the waves, lost in the depths of the Indian Ocean, waiting to be discovered? Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.